What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai, an extension of Anime Senpai PH channel. All pieces of information are derived from the light novel. In today's video, we will continue Chapter 6, Volume 7 of the light novel, entitled Gods and Demon Lords. This video is the 7th part of Chapter 6 in our Tensura spoiler video series. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. The two mystery visitors kneeled before Rimuru and said that it was a pleasure to meet Demon Lord Rimuru. They introduced themselves that they were members of the 7 Days Clergy, and that they had come to punish Hinata Sakaguchi for violating their orders. It sure was brazen of them. Hinata was on the ground, barely conscious. Arno and the other paladins were all tied up, and then 7 Days Clergy showed up. Rimuru had heard of the 7 Days Clergy before. Adelman didn't seem to appreciate them too much. It was very suspicious. Rimuru wanted to learn more from them, but things were kind of urgent right now. Rimuru said, trying to sound as annoyed as possible, that he didn't know what was going on with them. He told the 7 Days Clergy members to stop getting between Hinata and him, because Rimuru and Hinata had already settled things between themselves, and Rimuru wasn't going to let her die. The clergy raised their arms up high, making their disagreement clear. The clergy responded that unfortunately, they had to insist because Hinata, the woman there, had ignored the will of the god Luminous. This was blasphemy, and they had to issue divine punishment in response. The clergy had a goal to disrespect Rimuru. They teleported right into Rimuru's backyard and thought they could just say anything they wanted. The paladins pleaded to forgive Lady Hinata, but the clergy had no interests in the pleadings of the paladins. One of the paladins suddenly shouted that the clergy had tricked all of them and wanted Lady Hinata dead from the start. This was Renard, the captain of that band of 100, the one who had faced off against Shion. Then suddenly, the paladin standing next to Renard took out his sword and plunged it into that captain's body. The captain gasped as he recognized that it was Garde. Garde shouted such insolence and that he refused to allow Renard to speak so ill of the 7 days. Garde added that Renard had been conspiring with the rebel Hinata all along, and Renard was the one who tricked them. The shouted accusation created a stir among the rest of the paladins. They had no idea who was telling the truth. That was how much political power this clergy must have had over them. From that heat beam coming from Garde's direction, Rimuru could tell Garde's statement wasn't true. Rimuru had no idea what to do next, because things were so chaotic, and there was no hope of putting them back in order. Rimuru wanted to take Hinata back from the brink of death, but the clergy was in his way, and now Renard was betrayed by his own men, and in mortal danger himself. And then the clergy said they wanted Hinata dead for defying them, although they didn't seem to be hostile to Rimuru. Rimuru decided to save Hinata first. Shizu asked him to, for one, but beyond that, Rimuru thought they were just a few steps away from working everything out with each other. If they could make up, Rimuru figured that could lead to friendlier relations with both the Western Holy Church and the nation of Lobelius. Abandoning Hinata was never an option for Rimuru. Rimuru told them that he would hear all of them later. This was his nation, and they need to follow his laws while they're here. Then Rimuru asked Arno to cast his healing magic on Hinata right away. Rimuru explained that his nation didn't have laws, really, but Rimuru still had executive power and he meant to wield it. But the 7 Days Clergy wasn't impressed. The clergy insisted they could not allow that because the followers of Luminism had sworn absolute allegiance to the god Luminous, and even if the Demon Lord Rimuru wished it, no one here would execute his request. They were keeping all the paladins from doing anything. It was so annoying to Rimuru. There was no time to try reasoning with them. Rimuru thought about forcing the issue, but just as he did, Diablo sent him a thought communication. Diablo said he had an emergency report. Rimuru told Diablo to keep his report short because he was kind of busy. Diablo reported that he had discovered Rayhim's killer. It was a group known as the 7 Days Clergy, and they appeared to have devised all those events behind the scenes. Diablo continued that he was faced with 3 of them right now, and he feared that leaving them alive might cause harm for them later. Rimuru asked Diablo if he could provide evidence that they were the killers. Diablo responded that they had a press corps full of journalists from around the world there as eyewitnesses. Rimuru said alright and granted Diablo permission to rub them out. Diablo had impeccable timing. He definitely earned a nomination for Most Valuable Battler with that show. Rimuru had no idea how Diablo had engineered this to work out so well, but Rimuru guessed he'd had the right man for the job. This solved a lot of riddles on his end. Rimuru wondered if the 7 Days Clergy were the bad guys here. Their motives were unclear to him, but Rimuru guessed they had been after Hinata, not him. They wanted her dead, presumably because she would be trouble for them alive. And since she would be too formidable a foe for them, they had hatched a scheme to turn the rest of the world against her. The dude who just stabbed the Paladin Renard must have been connected to them too. Or maybe he was a 7 Days member himself. But either way, this Garda guy was the real hitman here. He must have wanted a clean kill, but performing the crime right in front of Rimuru was a mistake. Rimuru's universal detect was in operation, so doing the deed with him around was like shouting, "I'm the killer," as he pulled the trigger. Rimuru had suspicion that these were the guys who fiddled around with this message for Hinata, and Rimuru had to assume they interfered with Diablo's plans too. These were the culprits and no one else. And now that Rimuru knew that, he didn't have to worry about hurting his relationship with Lobelius. This was his nation. Originally, Rimuru had thought it best to leave them alive, but they had been a thorn in his side as well. Rimuru didn't see much need for that now. If they were going to run on him, they would just kill them off instead. Rimuru left Diablo to take care of his own business, and Rimuru began to take matters into his own hands. It was time to let off a little steam. Rimuru called Benimaru and Soe and ordered them to capture the 2 members of the 7 Days Clergy and take any measures they deemed necessary if they resisted. Benimaru and Soe came for the Clergy, who immediately shot Rimuru a pair of dirty looks, but Rimuru didn't let it bother him. Then Rimuru called Shion and asked her to take care of Garde over there for him. Rimuru warned her to watch out, as Garde might be a 7 Days guy in disguise. Shion said that she could show him the deepest pit in hell and expose him for what he was. She gleefully readied her massive sword. This time, Rimuru didn't stop her. The 2 7 Days Clergy members were talking foolishly about all-out war against them. Those 2 could babble all they wanted. If Rimuru let them be, it would be even more trouble for them later. And if he was going to take action here, he would have to make it count. Rimuru told the 2 members that he was sorry, but they had gone too far. Rimuru guessed they had tried pinning the blame for Archbishop Rahim's murder on him, but he had seen right through all that. Rimuru told them that if they are picking a fight with him, Rimuru assumed they knew what was coming for them. The paladins exchanged confused looks. A few of them, at least, seemed to see things his way. Arnau, meanwhile, with an enraged expression, already had his sword pointed at the Clergy. But the pair didn't look daunted. In fact, they were laughing in their faces. One Clergy said he hadn't thought that they would be found out. The other one laughed and said that the saint was already dead. He mocked Rimuru that he and Hinata had both exhausted their strength in that battle. The pair stressed that they wouldn't dream of missing this golden opportunity. And if all of them knew the truth as well, they would die with their demon lord. At least they weren't making any more excuses. The 7 Days Clergy fully admitted to it, laughing the whole way. Such a vulgar display. It almost made Rimuru sick. There was no value in keeping them alive at all. Benimaru, Soe, and Shion each sized up their prey, but it turned out the Clergy was craftier than Rimuru had thought. The Clergy called them fools and said they commended Rimuru's team for exposing them, but everything had already been accounted for. The clergy revealed that they had planned to kill all of them from the beginning. With that, the two of them leapt back and floated into the air. Garda joined them, revealing his true colors before Shion could reach him. Then with the three of them grouped together, they constructed a large-scale magic circle on the ground. This was dangerous, certainly beyond what a human of regular intelligence could handle, and certainly something that required advanced preparation. Inside the circle was Rimuru's team, two of the three lycanthropiers and the paladins. They intended to kill them all and make sure no evidence ever saw the light of day. Hellfire, demon wire slush, they shouted. Dark pyres of flame shot out toward the trio, accompanied by a torrent of sticky steel thread, powerful enough to break through sheet metal. But the only sound anyone could hear was high-pitched laughter. They boasted that this magic circle deflected all non-holy strikes, and any magical attacks from evil creatures like themselves could never penetrate it. The trio laughed and said that their knowledge had been built and refined over centuries, and it would never lose out to the brute force of some arrogant monster horde. The laughter echoed above them, but Rimuru was too busy keeping Hinata alive. She had a temporary heart made from his own body, but it took up a ton of magicules. Rimuru wasn't used to pulling this off, and it wasn't exactly a very compatible donor organ for her, so it wasn't working as well as what Rimuru concocted for Mulan. That's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you will never miss the upcoming continuation of Tensura's spoiler video series. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the top 10 commenters on my previous video. Shout out to Jamie Ira, Rival Sakiln, Luke Devilux, Venom Legend, Amaryl Tempest, Rembaru, Hashire Shish, Anime Lover, Joji Ray, Phil Sun, and last but not the least, shout out to Scratch Good 3. I'll see you guys in the next video.